I already said this in the upcoming video, but my name is Faith Lohorn. I was diagnosed with gamma delta T cell hyposplenic lymphoma back in August. This is me transforming, you know. I'm losing my eyebrows. I lost my hair ages ago, and now I'm losing my eyelashes. But today is the day before transplant. It's a camera. I should be able to talk to a camera. It's not like it's like I'm talking to myself. That's it. But it's hard. I have to enunciate because I'm scared nobody's gonna be able to I was witty in my head, but now it's just weird because I'm in camera and I don't know what to say. Well, I've been wanting to make this video for a while. As most know, my name is Faith. I am from Downriver, Michigan, and I've been wanting to make this video, like I said, to kind of tell my story, I guess, because for a couple of reasons. So, the heavy stuff. My mom is always better at telling these things, because even when I go to the doctors now, even with my diagnosis, I still say, I look over to my mom when they ask what's wrong, what's going on, and I go, Mom, and she says what's going on. Because I am a child. Not really, I'm 20 years old. But you know, what can you do? So let's start from the beginning. Back in August, and that's what I mean by the beginning. Back in August, I started to feel the main symptoms, I guess. They say that a lot of the time that you don't feel the symptoms until a year in to the first odd cell that pops up. So let's see here. I was a employee at Planet Fitness, and this, whatever was going on, I didn't know at the time what was going on, was hindering me from doing my work. I couldn't come in as much as I was supposed to because I was working full-time, and for my little 20-year-old self, that was a big deal for me. I had also moved out from my parents' house. I moved in with two wonderful people, my best friend Katie and her boyfriend Gunnar. We moved out, we moved into Monroe. I commuted to work to West Road, and drawing a blank. What was it gonna say? Oh yeah. So it started off with throughout the whole year, I guess, of the end of 2017, I just got sick more often than I normally did, because most of the time I only got sick maybe once a year during like high school and stuff like that. So I was barely out any of the time. So I knew it was kind of weird because I don't get sick that often. So the one time that I knew something was wrong was when I threw up because I thought I had like a gas type thing going on. Like I felt like I was producing too much gas. Like I felt really bloated. So we were thinking maybe it was my gallbladder. We didn't know. I did go to my primary and they did want to get an x-ray of said gallbladder to see if it was like inflamed or something, which was weird because, you know, most only get their gallbladder out when they have a child, excuse me, and I have not had a child in my family anyways. But anyways, from when I knew something was wrong, I'm getting off track, I threw up and I had horrible petechia. If you don't know what petechia is, it's basically kind of, it looks like a rash, but it's not. It's actually just like a bunch of red dots all over. It kind of, it basically is the red blood vessels in your face just all breaking like at once, and basically from the force of throwing up. So I did that. I came into my room, or I came into my mom's room, asked her, does this look normal? I might put pictures in, I don't know, they're really ugly. But so I asked her, she said no, that's not right. We thought maybe I was having an allergic reaction to an inhaler that I recently was prescribed. It was not. The guy thought it was just a rash. Obviously it wasn't, because it also is a sure sign of having issues with your blood counts and stuff like that. So I basically stay homesick until that rash clears up. I go back into work. Maybe 2 days later, maybe 3, I had a horrible doubling over pain in my rib, my left rib, yes, my left rib and this shoulder. So the doctors at the ER said I had a light case of pneumonia. There was fluid in my lungs, but they also missed a very big part of what was going on. Like how my spleen was like twice its size. So yeah, your normal spleen size is supposed to be like 11 centimeters. Mine was about 21. So 21 point something, I forget. But yeah, that's not normal. So they missed that. I don't know how, but they did. But luckily, they took blood. My blood was sent to my primary doctor, and my primary doctor immediately called me the next morning and said something was wrong. That I needed to go to a specialist, an oncologist, so he sent me to one. But he did it in a roundabout way, and when you've never had anything specifically medically wrong with you, like ever, other than like a common cold, I didn't know what that meant. So the number one thing you really should not do is Google things, especially when there is something wrong, because that will just freak the ever-living crap out of you. So don't do it. So what I did is they gave me the phone number. I put in my notes in my phone as I was on the phone with him, and then I Googled the number, which I shouldn't have, because it put me in an immediate breakdown. So basically when it popped up, it said Cancer Treatment Center, and I was just confused, you know. And I called my mom immediately, and I was like, I Googled the number, and she's like, I know, because this whole time I was kind of like going back and forth with my mom because I was scared. I didn't know what possibly could be wrong because I didn't think much of it. You know, most of the time whenever I went to the doctors and I thought something was wrong, they would send me home. Nothing would be wrong. I'd feel stupid. And that was that. So, by all means, if you think something is wrong, I urge you to go to the doctors and I urge you to say what's wrong. Don't be told, oh, it's this, that, and this, and the roundabout way of just, you know, not giving you a full answer. Because a whole year, because I did go to the doctors in between that whole year, and it kind of was like, is there a reason why I'm getting like flu-like symptoms for like maybe 3 days and then it goes away? You know? It's weird. So I knew something was wrong, but I was turned away multiple times. But back into the story. At first they thought maybe it could be mono, because mono has a lot of the same signs, which is scary, as leukemia. So he got the mono test with my blood, came back negative, so it was not mono. So he further wanted to, I hope that doesn't do anything to the sound. My heat just came on, it's like right there. But anyways, he soon told me that I would need a bone marrow biopsy. I've heard of this procedure before at that time, and I knew it was not fun. It was not it was very painful. And it's not something you want to do. So I got the biopsy done. It wasn't too bad. He did the biopsy, and he said during the healing process, if I were to ever have a fever at some point, then I needed to go straight to U of M. So lo and behold, a couple days later, I did get a fever, and I went to U of M. That's when things started to progress in my diagnosis. So at this time, we knew something was wrong, but we didn't know what. And we had a very bad feeling that it was going to be leukemia. Because that's what he mentioned. So we were kind of just waiting for the worst at that point, hoping maybe for the best. But if you do a biopsy, it's, I don't know. But anyways, we were waiting for the results still from that time. I got admitted into emergency at the U of M, and my heart rate was up when I did go in, so I went straight into the resuscitation unit. And if you've ever been into the resuscitation unit, they tell you to be calm, but once you get in there, there's a team of like 10 doctors, and for someone that's only been in the hospital for maybe one time, it was a lot. After they did all their tests, they did all their tests in that room. They did like x-rays, they did blood, they like put in 2 IVs at the same time. They did some other scan where like you get contrast and it kind of feels like you're peeing but you're not. Blah 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 blah. After being in the emergency room, they had to switch me to another emergency room that wasn't in the resuscitation unit after all the big old fuss, just to make sure I wasn't gonna like, I don't know, die or something, keel over. So they put me in that room, and it's a very uncomfortable room, even though they had movies. That was nice. But for me being uncomfortable, because you have to imagine your spleen being to double its size. And I, at that point, had always had to have a constant like ice pack right here and right here, because what they don't tell you is if your spleen hurts, it could also affect right here, and that's also what ammonia does. It affects right here. So they kind of got it wrong. The ammonia cleared up, because I wasn't coughing, I wasn't hacking anything up. So it was weird that they said it was ammonia, but apparently I had liquid in my lungs. But anyways, we don't talk about Beaumont. Towards like midnight, that's when the emergency team came into the room, and they said I had leukemia. It was a weird way to get a diagnosis, because, there's a couple doctors you just meet, and they're telling you something that, like, completely flips your whole world, like, 180. So, yeah, it was two ladies that just come in and they're like, sorry to inform you, but it does look like you do have leukemia. What they didn't know is it wasn't. It was actually something different, because they did regretfully inform me, or unfortunately inform me that I had to get another biopsy, because I was admitted later that night, and they said that I would get the biopsy, I think like the next day after that, maybe 2 days. So I did another biopsy. Hurt a lot less. U of M did a lot better. I had like a massage and everything. They played music. It was great. They got their samples. I did donate for, people in the future that might get my rare, crazy diagnosis. So I knew if I was on the other side, I'd want somebody to do that for me. So I just had to. So they did an extra pump whenever they were getting the sample. So they did that, and it came back with lymphoma. Not any just random lymphoma. I have the hiccups. Stop. Oh. If you're close to me, you know I have these weird hiccups, and they're annoying. Basically, they said I have a rare lymphoma, and the specific scientific-y all name about it is gamma delta T-cell I still have trouble with this word. It's like hyposplenic lymphoma. Let me check on that actually. I have a book where I wrote it down, because I was journaling. You probably can't hear me. 1 second. Okay. Yo, too much turn. Okay. Let's see here. Did I not write the whole name to it? I can't believe. Bruh. You get the deal. What that basically means is, the cancer is in my spleen, my liver, and my bone marrow and blood. So it's in those areas. I was quickly addressed with a chemo regimen to address it, kick it out, expel it. So that's what they did. So a regimen called ICE, and something I actually did write in it here, which is 3 drugs. I standing for here somewhere. Ooh. Oh. Yes, it's called ifosfamide. Ifosfamide. That's right. So, I for the ifos, and then for C, another one called carboplatin, and then etoposide. So etoposide is administered through the whole. It's a three-day process. It's administered through those 3 days. It's a 1-hour drip. Causes a little bit of nausea. I didn't get much. That wasn't really what affected me. Got that. And then the carboplatin is on day 2, as well as the top. The carbo is another hour drug, hour IV med, and then the ifos is the next day. Then I get all 3 of them. Yeah, I get all 3 of them. ifos lasts, and that runs for 24 hours. What they didn't tell me, because we're still trialing things that first day, is it could cause adverse effects later, which it did. About like 24 hours later, during the night, I started to get a little foggy. It caused the mass confusion. I didn't know my name. Yeah, I also didn't mention the mass hallucinations. That was fun. Didn't know my date of birth, and when I did know my name, I said September. So I didn't really know it. So I said the month instead of, my actual birthday. Because that's what they do. To make sure you're there. They say, Faith, you already said this. You're rambling. Where you at? That stuff. What month it is. I didn't pass any of that. I just said it was September for all of it. So obviously something was wrong. They quickly had put me on an antidote to clear the confusion. After 1 dose, it did show improvement, I guess. I started to know my name. They tried to get me to take my meds also during that time. It was really funny because I would grab the cup. They give you a little plastic cup. I'd be like, you put it down. And then I'd grab a pill out of it, and then I'd be like, I put it back. And then I take a sip of water, and then I put my water down, and then I don't take the pill. That was probably the most scariest part, I guess. It's just not knowing what was going to happen. Because I thought I was in the clear. You did all the chemo, and then 24 hours, like, bam, something hits you. I was sleeping for 24 hours that next day. As they're administering the antidote, I wake up and I was still kind of like out of it. One thing I recommend not doing when you're tripping mad balls is watching the 9/11 special, because no. Basically, I just was not computing things at a normal rate at that time. I was still kind of out of it, very sleepy, groggy. Just not there. Fully. After the last couple of doses of the antidote, which is also called methylene blue. It is a blue drip. It is blue. It's like electric blue. It is like blue is the sandwiches on this cup. Makes your pee blue. That's fun. Makes it blue for a while too. So after I started getting out of my confusion, they were starting to talk about going home, getting to sleep in a real bed, not a hospital bed, not being woke up and poked all the time, and so I was happy. So fast forward, I did 2 more regimens of that. They did a PET scan, started to come out showing that I was really reacting well to the treatment. So they were already talking about transplant. And basically, to expel this type of lymphoma, you have to reset your bone marrow. So that's where a transplant comes in. So a bone marrow transplant. So what they basically do is basically they're like turning your whole body back to factory settings, and it's a new, fresh, like, immune system. But to do that, it's kind of a process, which is what I will be starting to do tomorrow. Bone marrow day is tomorrow, which I'm excited about. I was able to spend Thanksgiving with the family, which I loved. But unfortunately, I will be in the hospital during Christmas, New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, whatever. So probably forecasted is when I will be out is 7 weeks later, which is around mid-January. Save the planet Earth. What was I saying? What if this whole time I haven't been looking at the camera? I've been looking at myself. Does that look different, like, in the camera? Like, is the video gonna look weird? Am I gonna look like I'm looking at nothing?
Spoiler alert, I was.
What was I saying? Yeah, so I'm ready for transplant. And basically what this process is I have a donor, and said donor is going to basically donate their marrow or whatever. Obviously, that's what donor means. So they give me their bone marrow. I have to take another regimen of chemo, which is a different regimen, and radiation as well. So 3 days of radiation, 2 days before the transplant of the chemo, and then that's when the transplant happens. You'd think it would be like, another like biopsy, but no, it's actually quite easy. What they do is when they take all the cells, the stem cells from the donor, they're basically just going to insert it via IV through me. These cells are actually quite smart, cells are smart. Basically what that means is they have like a little GPS system, is what my doctors explained to me, and they have a little GPS system that is going to basically go through my bloodstream, and they're going to know exactly where to go and exactly how they need to start working to basically kick my cells out, get rid of any of the microscopic little cancers that might be still in my marrow. And what they had to do before that is bottom out my immune system to do that. That's why I have to take all the chemo and the radiation, so they can bottom out all of that and then replace it. And then after a while, it's going to regain. The cells are going to start working properly, doing their own thing. With this, there is a risk called graft versus host disease. What that is basically is it's the cells that I was given reacting to my cells, so they're kind of like, you're foreign, what are you doing here? And that's how it happens. It can come out in different forms. I had a bunch of appointments last week of doctors informing me of ways that it could pop up. Like, the mucus glands in my mouth and in my eyes. So basically, I'm gonna get like a really bad case of dry eye, and then my mouth is gonna be dry, and my skin, I might get patches of like dry skin, stuff like that. Which the doctors say it's kind of good to get a little bit of the graft versus host, because that's how they know that it's kind of working, you know? It's like kind of getting rid of the cancer, stuff like that. So this requires a 7-week hospital stay. Basically during that whole time I'll be getting the transplant and then recovery time. So my immune system's gonna be bottomed out, so they want me in the hospital, of course, so I'm not exposed to anything bad. Yada yada yada. My next thing that I want to talk about, basically the importance of donating. Why it was so difficult for me to get a match is because I did not have a match in the donor registry. So basically, everyone did not match me. They said I was a 1 in a million. If only that was like, you know, in like a good case. You don't really want that in your blood. So basically, my blood is a 1 in a million. There's a couple. Your blood's made up of a different markers and antigens and stuff like that. It's kind of like how they explain to me. I know like ABC and so on. I don't know how much it goes to, but I have a C antigen, and this C antigen basically makes my blood really brown. So nobody really matched in the registry. So basically the closest thing I was going to get was a sibling. I only have one sibling. He initially didn't match because I did test him. He wanted to be tested right away. My brother Chris, if you haven't met him, he is awesome. So what he's going to do is he's going to get multiple shots, which by a drug called Neupogen, right? Yeah. Which basically accelerates the growth of your cells in your marrow and your bone marrow, and to the point where it basically expels out of your marrow and goes in your bloodstream. That's how they collect it, and that's how they get better amounts of cells for the transplant, so they do it that way for me. Okay, like I said, the next thing I wanted to get into is the importance of donating, because you don't know how rare your blood may be and how that may help somebody. A lot of the time for bone marrow, you don't have to get the painful process like I was telling you that I got. You could do it the way my brother's doing it, which he calls it bone hurting juice, because sooner or later your bones will get a little uncomfortable. It might make them a little sore, but that's about it, really. But I've been through 3 biopsies, and I'm kind of a wuss, so it's not too bad if you want to do it that way too. But I urge you to donate blood, marrow, whatever. If you see a blood drive, go to it. You could be saving somebody's life, like somebody like me that needs transfusions like for platelets and plasma all the time. So go do it, man. Another thing, I wanted to make a video talking about me, you know, so I do have a drawing video. Most know that I am an artist, so enjoy. Okay, let's get into this. Meet the artist. I have 3 facts over there. One says that I wear the same red jacket no matter what season, even if it's like below 0. I don't care. It's a spring jacket, but I like it. So yeah. And the next one is I have 3 hats that I switch in between, and they're my favorite hats. I have the Michigan hat I wore before in the previous video, a mauve Carhartt that I wear a lot, and then Pink Floyd hat. No, I don't listen to them. It was literally the only thing that was available during the summer. Sorry. And then the next one is I love getting compliments from phlebotomists about my tattoo that I have on my forearm. You can see it right there. Yeah, and then the other one right there that's pointing to my head, my little bald head over there, is that I have a beauty mark. Fun fact, right there on like the top of my head, and I didn't know that till I went bald. Wow, I actually did it. I did this like 3 times, and I ran out of time. But yeah, this is it. I'm gonna do like an actual picture at the end, which so you can see it a little better. I know it's shaky. This is me post-editing after all of what you just seen. There's a couple things I didn't mention that I did want to add. So I didn't really go over like how rare that the doctor said that this lymphoma was. Clark, what are you doing? Get off the clothes. Get off of the clothes. You're coming with me. Okay. So basically, this is Clark. He says nice to meet you. Anyways, basically how rare this form is no doctor, no one specialist will probably come across this lymphoma or patient with this lymphoma or whatever more than a handful of times. So I didn't ask him, my specialist, my doctor, how many times he's had patients with this diagnosis, but not any doctor has more than 50 probably in their career. And then another thing, I just thought that was interesting, that's all. Another thing I want to talk about is the reason I also wanted to make this video is because my dear friend Katie Carwick is setting up a GoFundMe for me. A couple people have kind of been like wanting to, and I was thinking about it, but I don't know how you just go about doing that for like yourself. Even though like I'm not gonna be able to work for a year straight, because after the transplant they're very strict in what you do. Basically it's a very big stretch for me to even go back to school the next fall semester. So probably like if I went to those really big colleges with like the huge auditoriums, it wouldn't be a thing probably, but I go to a private college and there's like 9 kids in the class, if that, and there's studios, so whatever. But anyways, she's setting up a GoFundMe, and I didn't want to just have her post it and nobody not really know about what's going on. I just think if anybody is going to donate, that everybody deserves a story, explanation, stuff like that. I'm not sure when I'm gonna be able to work again, do normal things like normal people do. For the most part it's still the same, just not being in school or working, since I've been working I've been working since 2015 and I haven't stopped. So 3 years of, all the older people are like, I've been working for 30 years, that's nothing. I know. But anyways, it's different for me. I haven't worked since August now, so it's weird having all this free time, even though most of it is like in the hospital and we're sick. But the good times were that. Anyways, the good times where I'm actually feeling good is good. Nice words, Faith. Is good. But case in point, I will leave the link in the description. I'm gonna be posting this on a couple sites. I don't know if I'm gonna post it on YouTube. I don't know if I'm YouTube worthy. But I will be posting on Facebook. Dear God, I hope it actually uploads and doesn't turn into actual pixelated crap.